Sveika, Ivanna! Pastāsti nedaudz par sevi. Kāda bija tava dzīve Ukrainā?
Yes, I'm Ukrainian. I was born in Ivano-Frankivsk, which is the western city of Ukraine. And I studied there. I finished, it was at the time, it was called the first gymnasium in the city. It was a kind of a renewed school of from the kind of old times, and it was very special. It was very special for me because we were among the first ones in the city to finish these gymnasiums. We had a lot of good classes. We had music, art, we had theology, Latin, German, French, dance. It was a very special time, and also for me, I cherish those memories. Kustības members have had the chance to visit my gymnasium, and they were very much, they really liked it. Because, and what was very special was the fact that some of the teachers were still there. So that's part of the time when I was growing up. And then after I applied through it was a kind of test for this university, which was also a Renaissance kind of university. It's called National University of Kyiv-Mogila Academy. And I studied political science as my bachelor degree. So my student life was kind of based in Kyiv. And after I applied for a master's, it was a scholarship in Maastricht University. But at the same time, I worked a little bit in Kyiv, on and off, coming from Brussels. So I cannot say that I'm completely detached from the Ukrainian reality. A lot of my friends, my parents are still in Ukraine, and a lot of my friends, colleagues, I mean, now with the war, people also travel back and forth quite a bit. And also some people actually work also on some online projects, so we are slowly integrating into Europe.
Vai tu arī piedalījies Ukrainas atmodā, kad Ukraina kļuva neatkarīga?
No, because I was quite young at that point. But that was the time when I remember we went to vote for the independent Ukraine as a family. My mom said, today is a special day, we have to we go and vote all together as a family. No, but my first kind of real participation in political work of Ukraine, it was during the Orange Revolution. I was a student then, and we were really the core few students that organized the steering committee to protest against at that point it was for the free media and disinformation that was coming on all the channels from Russia. Well, it was influenced by Russia, obviously. And then I remember our head of the university gathered us at this big plats, what we call in the Kyiv-Mogila Academy, and he said that today we don't have studies. All students from Kyiv-Mogila Academy, those who want, they will come out on a protest, and we were marching across the streets of Kyiv. I remember people were looking at us from the balconies because they didn't understand what it is about. It was such a new thing for Ukraine, also from that perspective that young people were on the streets protesting. So that was for me a kind of the first time that I really felt what it means to be part of this political movement and the change.
Un kādā veidā tu nokļuvi Briselē?
So I mentioned that I was part of this program, which was a Dutch governmental program for the students from. Actually, it was at that time it was a new member states. It was because we had people from Eastern Europe as well, and there were just 1 or 2 scholarships for Ukrainians, but we had Latvians, we had the Lithuanians, we had Czech, we had all, basically they just mixed quite a few students from the Eastern Europe and then from the Western Europe, and they had 1 or 2 scholarships for Ukrainians. So that I was in that was in Maastricht University, and then it was a very special program because it was a program of European Studies and International Relations. So after that, all of us, we kind of tried to apply for different traineeships and scholarships in Brussels. And I did that as well, and I got a traineeship in the European Commission. But just to say that it's Maastricht and then there's College of Europe. These are two main institutions that are really preparing these future bureaucrats. So I was part of them. So this is how I ended up in Brussels, basically, to say that was 2007.
Un tieši kurās Eiropas institūcijās tu strādāji?
So from that time I worked in a different capacities, let's say, because at the beginning I worked for a big communication project which was dealing with the all neighborhood, east and south. It was not just Ukraine. And then that was at that time it was the DG called DG Europaid, which had rebranded a few times after that because depending on the different portfolios that DG was covering. So after I worked for the Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum, which is an NGO which was covered the region because Eastern Partnership was kind of slowly born, and that was covered under DG NEAR, which was more or less the same portfolio, but it also included the Balkans, the candidate countries, and it still now does until today. And then I had also projects with the which covered communication, mainly projects with External Action Service. I worked a little bit with the Committee of Regions, and before joining the European Parliament, which I am actually working now, I worked in the EU Anti-Fraud Office. That was during the COVID time, so that was quite an interesting experience. But then after COVID, I joined the European Parliament, and this is how my political career started developing. And so I worked in, and I still work in the Renew Europe. It's a political group, centrist liberal group that actually Kustībā is also part of.
So, un ko tieši tu tagad dari tieši šobrīd Eiropas Parlamentā?
So, well, I mentioned this that the Renew Europe has a big secretariat of staff that is supporting the work of the group. So it's I always say it's a kind of 50-50 work of 50. It's an institution because it's a secretariat that has been there also during previous parliaments, you can say. But it is there to support the members of the those who are elected. So we do a lot of work, as we know that there is a lot of legislation that is being amended all the time. So members, MEPs are working on different files, but we support the legislative processes. And at the same time, we also support, and this is what I'm doing, I'm part of the communication team. So to make sure that we communicate these policies in a proper way. We are not directly linked to the political parties. This is actually very much divided in the parliament to make sure that we are just working for the to communicate the policies and the work of the parliamentary group, which is Renew Europe is. It's a quite exciting work because I am based in the European Parliament. I see everything what's going on in there. It's at the same time it's quite challenging because, for example, the Renew Europe group now has more than 100 members of parliament, so we try to cater everybody's wishes. It's not all the time possible, but we try hard.
Un kāds būtu tavs lielākais sasniegums šajā laikā, kad tu strādā Eiropas institūcijās?
I am quite happy in the way, we always have worked, we have a group of people who are mainly Ukrainians, and they are my friends and colleagues who work not across different institutions. And we have worked, we have been there for quite a while, so we have grown in a way together with the institutions, and we try to discuss this quite often also, how our work has influenced the way institutions perceive us as Ukrainians, for example, and because I am also Belgian citizen, and I have actually paid, before I joined the parliament, I worked as a consultant, so I paid quite a lot of European taxes. So I really understand what it means to spend European tax money on bureaucratic salaries, for example, because I have contributed myself personally. And we talk about that, and we say that it's such a big road that it's not just we as Ukrainians that are part of these institutions, but also what EU has done from their side. Because when I remember I arrived in Brussels in 2007, I mean, for 5 years or so, my residence card was saying that I was born in the Soviet Union. And everybody was asking me if I'm not a Russian spy or something. I mean, it was such an outrageous statement for somebody who is from the Western Ukraine, you know. It was very, I really perceived it very personal. So we really were working on this branding Ukrainians as part of Europe. And it was not easy. I think now, and it's such a black and white reality of this war, is the fact that we are Ukrainians, and those who are coming now as refugees or to work or to speak in a parliament or somewhere else, we are perceived as equals, you know, that people really listen. But really this is all done by the fact that there's a lot of people who have paid their life for that. Before this, it was really difficult. It was not so easy to really say, I am Ukrainian and I am part of Europe and we belong in Europe and we are fighting for the same values, and we have been fighting and we have been part of this for such a long time. So this is basically, we say, I mean, I would say that this is one of the main achievements mine personally, is really to be part of this process of making Brussels understand that Ukraine is part of Europe. And I think now it's easier for us to maybe advocate some of the interests, and it's also easier for me to understand where Europeans coming from. So that's one of the things I always say, that I combine these two identities, or because I am deeply European in everything that my professional career is about, but I'm also Ukrainian in my heart.
Un kādā veidā tu iepazinies ar Latvijas politiķiem un ar kustību par?
So I have been familiar with the work of Latvian politicians for a little bit longer than I know Kustībā, because as I said, I have quite a few colleagues who are actually based in Brussels, and we've been, and they're friends as well, so we've been exchanging on this for quite a while. But with Kustībā we met through ALDE. ALDE is a political party which is Brussels, and it's combining quite a few liberal parties in Europe, and Kustībā is part of this party. And so we just were meeting during the work meetings and professional congresses, and yeah, and they're really nice people. So.
Un tā tu nolēmi, ka tu vari kandidēt Eiropas Parlamenta vēlēšanās?
I did not decide. Kustībā decided. I knew that they were kind of thinking about this very bold move of having a Ukrainian as the leading candidate, which, of course, as a Ukrainian, I was, you know, quite in awe about, because it's not so. You know, mainstream that you find that another country would like to give the most precious what politicians have, their leading vote, to a national who is not, you know, yes. So it was very, very emotional. But at the end, they were looking, and then they said that they would also like to have a profile that would be valuable for Latvia, in a sense of knowing the institutions, knowing which corridor, which room first to open the door. And they said that you know how it works from the inside, and maybe this would be a fitting profile for us. So yes, this is how it became a reality.
Un Ja tevi ievēlētu Eiropas Parlamentā, kādas būtu tavas prioritātes, kam tu gribētu pievērst vairāk uzmanības?
I think there is a lot of work that needs to be done, and especially coming up from the manifesto of the party. It's the main part is everything that has to do with the security and defense. So we are now really talking about, and also on the European scale, about the European defense strategy, the European Defense Union. This is what I will definitely advocate to be working and moving quite fast as much as possible, because this involves a lot of work also from the industry side. There is budget questions. At the same time, there is I think there is a role for it to play very much for Latvia, with all the capabilities that Latvia can offer, which Latvia is already offering drones and other munitions to Ukraine. So in that context, we can also talk about including maybe Ukraine in some aspects of this strategy, because Ukrainians can really tell, you know, they're doing this in practice, so they can be very valuable in teaching certain parts of the, I don't know, in the training sphere, and also from the capacity building and experience sharing in these aspects. To for example, to Latvia, which all this is, I still feel that this is the main priority for Latvia.
Jā, te es tieši gribēju tev jautāt, jo tas ir galvenais jautājums vēlētājiem. Kādā veidā tu vari, ko tu vari dot Latvijai kā Ukrainas politiķe?
So I mentioned the defense part, but I think that me personally, what my career has been developing in the sense that I really covered quite a few areas where and how to the benefit of EU funding, and where is better to apply, which funding is more suitable for which kind of institution or NGO, and I already see it now while talking to quite a few organizations in Latvia, and also different people, that they're very much interested in this. So maybe we're also talking about that we of course we need more budget for Latvia, because Latvia needs to be very strong from every aspect, you know, economically, and because it is so close to the aggressor, and we need to be making sure that Latvia is a strong country. But at the same time, what I can bring is closing maybe some gaps in terms of like really practically speaking, that maybe this bit of funding or in this area from this institution or from that DG can be more beneficial here, and or to this organization. And I see that people are very much interested in that as well, because maybe there is a question of absorption capacity, that people don't know how to apply, they don't know how to which organization would be, for example, the main beneficiary or the secondary beneficiary. All these aspects I'm very well aware of. And at the same time, there are other things like, for example, we talk a lot about the debureaucratizing the processes. For example, for small and medium enterprises, this is what Liberal Group is very much promoting, because we understand, all of us, that without the small and medium enterprises, I mean, Europe is based on this, and especially I think for Latvia this is also a big question, how to help boost this sector of economy and businesses.
Tātad tu jau esi iepazinis Latviju. Cik ilgi tu jau šeit esi, un ar kādiem Latvijas cilvēkiem vai organizācijām esi tikusies?
I've traveled now quite a bit. It's very interesting, and I really like, because what I happen to learn is also different parts of Latvia and different regions, and there's sometimes smaller villages which are very different sometimes, and now also during the time we go to the more beach, like Liepāja we went the other day. It was very nice. You can see different festivals, different cultures, music. So there is but I also see every time there is so much potential to actually develop it more. And I think that Latvia has a lot of potential also for tourism and touristic sector. And I'm really hoping to work more on these issues. Yes.
Un par tavu ģimeni. Pastāst mazliet vairāk par tavu ģimeni, vai arī viņiem patīk Latvija?
My family, yes, my husband and my daughter are here now in Riga, and they are enjoying very much some of the parks that Riga has, and my daughter loves the playgrounds. I see that they are very much in shape. We go a lot, and yeah, and the food is also very nice. So it's a whole cultural immersion also for my family, and I think we will be coming back here quite often, or we'll be staying here.
Kustība ir liberāla partija. Kādas ir tavas liberālās vērtības?
I always say that I've always been liberal since growing up. It was maybe something that I learned because there was an exchange student from the States that was the first exchange student in my grammar school in my hometown. And she opened up, this different kind of more democratic and open way of looking at things to me. And actually it was quite a coincidence because a few weeks ago our Secretary General sent me the questionnaire from 2019 to fill up about the fitting for the candidacy and the party. And he was very curious on what would be my match, and it's, I mean, it is pure coincidence, but I had the Kustības, which was like my top match, so I think we are quite aligned on a lot of things. I mean, and again, saying to that I work for the Renew Europe, so it's a Renew Europe group in the parliament, so I'm totally where I'm supposed to be.
Pastāsti nedaudz par saviem vaļaspriekiem, varbūt, ko tu dari ārpus politikas.
My political life is very active, but you have to understand that we also have a war, so I try to help as much as I can with my voluntary activities and help some of the organizations from my hometown. So I think for most of Ukrainians, your hobbies turned into how you can help, and I know maybe sometimes here and in Europe some people for them it's like maybe something that they do which we were very grateful. But for us it's like a way of life, and nowadays unfortunately. But I mean but really personally, I like to do a lot of sport, so I try to exercise, and this is my way of kind of switching off. And I also listen to many audiobooks. I have quite a few. I recommend that because sometimes maybe you don't have time to read, or you're too tired from the screen, from the book. But if you are listening, you can also do something in the house or walk in the park, and you can combine.
Tātad Ukrainā tev ir palikusi ģimene, radinieki, draugi. Kā tu par to jūties?
My parents are in Ukraine, yes. But I mean, Ukraine is big, so we have to also understand that, and maybe this is also a little bit of a sad reality of Ukraine right now, that some regions are actually not doing quite okay because they are far away from the front line, and actually some businesses have moved from the east to the west, where my parents are. And in that aspect, I always say, don't be afraid of Ukraine. When we have also a lot of potential in terms of future candidacy, I think it's very important also for Latvian businesses to look into that, because Ukraine brings a lot of potential in terms of businesses, and it's happening now. So maybe if you're gonna wait until the enlargement is taking place, it can be too late, or when the war is over, it can be too late. So start already now. Yeah, but I mean, life goes on for many cities, and and I have friends in Kiev. This is the dual reality, I even started dressing like black and white because we are just our life is so black and white all the time now.
Jā, diemžēl mūsu sabiedrība arī ir ļoti polarizēta. Ko tu varētu novēlēt Latvijai tuvākajā laikā?
Yeah, on this question of polarization, I really feel it so much, and I really wished and hoped, and I wish for the Latvians to really come into a realization that, you know, freedom is something that you cannot really take for granted. And whatever you say and how you say it is you have to really keep that in mind, because sometimes I see that some people really throw some statements in you know, which just because they really don't realize what war is about. You have to really cherish the country that you have. It's a beautiful country. I really hope that it will never see even, you know, 5% what Ukraine is going through, and but it's very important to understand that to protect that country you have to be a patriot. You have to understand that democratic way of and this European way of life. You know, it's Zelensky saying that, but it is very important that you are enjoying now. You cannot just throw it out with some statements or you know, saying that the aggressor is doing something that potentially can be beneficial. There is nothing beneficial about the war and about aggression, about when somebody comes to your house and just because for whatever reason they decided that they should protect you. I mean, do you really need protection here? We are all fine, and I wish that people understand that. Sometimes it's not about which language you speak, but what you say. So watch for what you say in whatever language you speak.
Paldies par interviju. Es arī novēlu tev un Ukrainai mieru un labklājību.
Paldies!